Hey nerds, and welcome to Flash, Theories, and Conspiracies. I'm Brian from Good Nerd, Bad Nerd. So this week on Flash, Barry journeyed into the Speed Force, and we're going to talk about what happened there, who we saw, and what the final moments meant for our ongoing discussion about who Savitar really is. And then at the end of the episode, I'm going to talk to you about the Music Meister. He's the villain for next week's two-parter crossover with Supergirl, but I'm not going to be able to do a video next week for either of those shows, so I just kind of wanted to talk about him this week to give everyone a heads up of who he is and what you can expect from him. So first, the Speed Force. We saw the return of four really, that we haven't seen for a little bit of time, and was the big thing they were announcing. I feel like the characters were pretty underused, but the characters we got to see this week were Eddie Thawne, Ronnie Raymond, and Leonard Snart. Now, all of these characters, the Speed Force, it seemed was trying to attack Barry and his guilt to see if he would be willing to break the Speed Force again and go back in time to try and save anyone else. Kind of, in a way, it was testing to see if Iris dies, will he try and go back in time to save her again? That being the case, I don't... It felt like it was a waste of the characters. I think it would have been better served for the episode if they had picked one, probably Eddie, because I feel like Eddie is the one that he really has more guilt over. But if they had just used him throughout the entire episode instead of jumping between these other ones. But I understand why they did it. Now, we also saw two other familiar faces. We saw a Time Wraith, which was, hunting down people who broke the time stream and changed the past, things like that. But we also saw the Black Flash, and Black Flash has appeared on Legends of Tomorrow, but he's here. He's now in the Speed Force. He is a weapon of the Speed Force to chase down speedsters that are causing problems. So that's there. I mean, I could get into more about the Black Flash from the comics, but for the most part, he was just kind of a more elaborate Time Wraith. So that's what we saw in the Speed Force. Now, the final moments of the Speed Force, when Barry goes into the room to try and save Wally, that's when we see Jay. And Jay takes Wally's place. He does it willingly. He's not imprisoned there in the same way that Wally was, or potentially Savitar was. So I think that's important, and I think that's going to play into the bigger question that we're dealing with next, and that is, who is Savitar? Now, we've been talking about this for a while. The answer is still not 100% clear. This week, the show did two things to try and really kind of make two characters seem like the likely subject. First, when Jay did take Wally's place and, kind of locked himself in that Speed Force prison, that was the show being like, oh, look, it might be Jay. Jay could be the bad guy, but I don't think anyone who willingly sacrifices themselves like that would turn into Savitar. So I think that's kind of a red herring. The other one was HR, when he's kind of hiding out in the hallway and eavesdropping on the conversation. A lot of people took that to mean that, oh, look, this is him. He's listening to see what Jesse's going to do, and that's how he knew to be in that spot. But I think that's a red herring also. I think this is just HR. He had concern for Jesse, but he also is just kind of a snoopy kind of character. He's kind of lurks around trying to hear what he can. But again, I don't think it's HR, and so I think that takes my HR is actually abracadabra theory off the table. We will see. I don't think we're going to get any more on this next week, though. But who does that leave to be Savitar? Well, Wally has been pulled from the Speed Force. It's possible his time there was so traumatic that it will cause him to be Savitar, but I don't see how that fits in with what we know about how Savitar is trapped there for an extended period of time in the future, and it seems like it's someone who will be trapped there much later in the future. But again, we're not entirely sure there. So Wally, I guess, is still a possibility, but I don't really think that is. The person I think is the biggest possible answer is still Barry. Everything we're seeing about the Out of Time story arc really does kind of come into play. Grant Gustin was asked about this, and he was talking about it, and he said, unlike previous seasons where there's been secrets and clues littered throughout the episode, he's claiming that there haven't been any this season, and that when people finally learn who Savitar is, it's going to be this big kind of oh my gosh moment, and it's going to blow people's minds, because in his opinion, there's been no hints leading up to who this character is. Even if there have been no hints, in my mind, it still has to be someone we know. Because if it's not somebody we know, it's going to be like, imagine a Scooby-Doo episode where they rip off the mask and it's nobody they've encountered. And so they have no clue who this person is or why he would be important or significant to them. So it's got to be someone they know. And so if it is Barry, that just fits in. Now, we don't have anything else to go on based on this episode, but I'm curious, did this episode change your theories on it? Who do you think Savitar is? Do you agree that it's Barry? Do you think I'm right that he is the most likely candidate at this time? What do you think? It's hard to tell, especially with how limited the information we've been receiving is. But next, the Music Meister. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of information on him since I won't be doing an episode next week. He is a character, he's very similar in one regard to Harley Quinn, where Harley Quinn was created in the Batman the Animated Series. Music Meister was created in the Batman Brave and the Bold animated series. So he's another character that wasn't original to the comics, but was such a fan favorite, the shows decided to bring him in. Now, his ability, he's a metahuman who has the ability to essentially sing and vocally hypnotize people and cause them to essentially believe they're in a musical. It's an interesting power. He also has a kind of a wand or a kind of conductor's rod that shoots lasers that look like they are music. I don't think we're going to be seeing that in the show necessarily. He may have some sort of weapon, but I don't think we'll see it shooting out musical notes or anything like that. He also, this is based on the cartoon, so you have to take it for what it's worth, seemingly had the ability to change his costuming on a moment's notice. I doubt we'll see that also, because that, I think, is just more the cartoons and also playing up the fact that people are hypnotizing. He can kind of create whatever reality he wants while they're in that hypnotized state. But he definitely has the ability to control people and control them to even cause self-harm, as was seen when in his very first appearance, he was getting Black Canary, Grodd, Green Arrow, and a bunch of others to essentially dance into the exhaust port of a rocket until Batman saved them. So he's a fun character. I still have issue that it's not Neil Patrick Harris, but I know a lot of people are excited. That is, I believe, Daniel Chris. So really looking forward to next week's episode. What do you guys think? Do you think Music Meister is a good pick? Do you think it's just a little fan service to get people who want more of a crossover between Supergirl and Flash? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, guys, this has been Brian from Good Nerd, Bad Nerd, and this has been Supergirl, Flash, Theories and Conspiracies.